So it's been a while. Been quite a few years since I've done one of these sort of videos, and let's see what I've been up to since then. I changed jobs, put on a lot of the weight again, worked to get rid of it, bought a house, had a pretty devastating family tragedy that sort of changed everything. Yeah, one other thing. But anyway, I digress. Look, I'm going to be completely honest. When I went back and looked at this video, I realised that it was pretty dark, bit of a downer at times, and I figured I should cut in some jokes. So, first off, what do you call a fish with no eyes? Psh. What do you call a can opener that doesn't work? A can't opener. What did the beavers say when it ran into the wall? Damn. Yeah, look, it's been pretty hard. There's been some times that have been pretty difficult that I've struggled to go through. But then at the same time, there's been a lot of lessons learned. I think over the few years, I, through a whole bunch of different reasons, fell back into the old habits, the old traps, and definitely went back into my shell and was no longer the person that I worked so hard to become. And I went from being someone that was very proud of themselves, very happy about what they were doing, to something that I never would have picked to be. I lost a lot of my confidence, lost a lot of my voice, lost my energy, lost just everything that I just worked so hard to create. Like, I don't know if you remember when I started this whole journey, the whole point of it was that I was pretty low and down on myself, pretty negative, didn't have much self-esteem, had trouble processing what I was meant to be as a person, what emotions I could and couldn't show, and not knowing how to speak up when things weren't right for my life. And that led to some pretty bad anxiety, and that anxiety led to some pretty bad depression, that led to some pretty self-destructive behaviors that I'm not proud of, and I wasn't the person who I became. And I spent years, like literally years, working on that, and I beat it. You know, I was out, I was on the other end, I was healthier, I was great, I was loving myself, I was so positive, I was so boisterous, I was just, you know, I was the old me, you know, the fun-loving, crazy, dumb guy. But yeah, a couple changes happened. A death in the family sort of changed everything. What do you get when you cross a rhetorical question with a joke? And look, there's no right or wrong way to go about it, and I definitely didn't realise it was happening when it did. But when that happened, something shifted in my life, and for a long time, things were no longer about me looking after me, which, look, there's general reasons to do so. Like, as much as this death in the family rocked me, there was a lot more people in my life that it hit a lot harder than ever could have hit me, so they became my priority. And someone else really big in my life did very much the same, to the point that we didn't realise it till well after it was too late, that we didn't look after ourselves or each other. It was very much our lives were put on hold. And during that time, we both grew into different people. And unfortunately, I do not like the person that I grew into. I'm just trying to be careful of what I specifically say. But end of the day, I've always known that anxiety can really push me to a state of depression. But I never thought I'd actually have actual depression. And yeah, look, I definitely did. Right after Tom died, I actually changed my job. which look, was one of the best things I ever did. Do not get me wrong, I am very glad I made that change. But what happened when I changed my job was my new job was a lot more flexible. It was work from home, which look, is great. It was fantastic. I mean, I had a lot more time in my life because I was able to spend more time with the people that needed me most at that time. And it was great. This new job is amazing. It really let me cater my life to what I needed to do and be at that time. But unfortunately, I wasn't looking after myself, and I was definitely on a downward path, and there's a lot of positives in working from home, but I definitely took advantage of all the negatives. I became very lazy. I was the guy that at one stage on a day that wasn't meant to be a rest day, I'd wake up 5 a.m. thinking, maybe I do miss out on the gym today. Then I'd lay in bed for 15 minutes, feel so guilty, I'd just get up and went. And I'd love the fact that I would do that. To the person that would go less and less, to the point that I would eventually just stop going. Like, I'd wake up 10 minutes before work. And 10 minutes before work means I was probably just wear my pajamas all day and lounge around and not take care of myself. I'm no longer exercising. Look, I don't want to sound gross, but when you wake up in your pajamas, you go to work in your pajamas, and then your day's finished, and you stand around in your pajamas, there's an important step there you're missing that people should definitely do, and they should be doing a lot more than what I was doing it. So yeah, I was just in an absolute funk, and I don't think I realised it, but I was just really down on myself, and that made me a bad person for the people closest to me. And eventually, not just because of me and my issues, like a lot more was going on, but eventually all these things came to a head and created a rift that has changed everything, seemingly overnight. I say seemingly overnight, it was probably on a course for a year, could even be longer. What's red and bad for your teeth? A brick. But what felt like overnight, everything changed, and I was the lowest I reckon I'd ever been, and it absolutely sucked, and I'm not happy about that, and it ain't good. But yeah, the one positive that came out of that initially, sorry, that's a lot of dogs yelling, barking, woofing. Thanks guys. Yeah, I was at an absolute all-time low, and it sort of made me realise that I needed to make changes again. But what was funny was, for that entire time I didn't realise what I was becoming until that moment. And when that got pointed out to me, I suddenly realised, oh yeah, like, I'm not that person I was. I've put on all that weight again. I'm always freaking anxious and afraid to go out and see people and say my voice, and yeah, it was awful. So yeah, I hate to say it, but I went from being an all-time low to being fantastic and truly happy to being probably the lowest I've ever felt in my entire life, like ever. And unfortunately, the people that were such a rock and support for me when I first went on this journey, inadvertently were probably part of the reason why I was feeling as low as I ever felt. And that's not on them. It's just a whole damn journey. But what I got out of it since then is actually possibly the best and strongest I've ever felt. And I don't mean strong in physical strength. Don't get me wrong. I feel like with some direction I've become in the best shape I've ever been in. But right after that happened and the change occurred, I immediately realized I had to make changes. And I did. I reached out to friends that I just inadvertently completely closed out of my life, and I could not be more thankful because they've become some of the biggest people in my life. and they've given me so much support unconditionally. They didn't need to. They didn't, like, I was a guy that, you know, was there for a while and then just fucking up and disappeared. And the moment I reached out to them, they've been some of the most important people I reckon I've ever had in my life, and I could never thank them enough for it. I've started, you know, trying new things. I've met some amazing new people, like people that I know are going to be like a big part of my life going forward. And I did it by just putting myself out there in ways that I never would have had the confidence to have done 6 months to a year ago. I mean, I'm back at the gym. I'm doing the best workouts I've ever done. My running is incredible. I feel like I'm actually in the best overall shape I've ever been in my entire life. And my relationship with my friends and family are probably the strongest it's ever been. I don't have much of a moral to the story. I didn't actually put any thought into it. It's just, I've wanted to say what's been going on in my life for a while now, and I've been very coy and respectful about it, and I don't want anyone to think anything wrong. But at the same time, I also know I can't truly take those next steps if I hide shit. You guys walked into a bar, the third one ducked. So yeah, that's all this video is. I've gone quiet for a few years. At first, I was just always blaming it on being too busy, something coming up, but very, very clearly, there was something more deep-seated wrong that has now come to a head and, look, has forced change, but I am so grateful for everyone I have in my life right now. The old friends that always stood by me, the friends I've reconnected with who have helped me in ways that I don't think I could ever truly repay, and the new friends that I literally already couldn't imagine not having there in my life. And yeah, this is the next step. And I'm, for the first time in a very long time, genuinely excited to see what the future can bring. I'm scared. I'm very aware that there's going to be some difficult conversations and things to go through, which I'm not obviously overly keen about, but 2025 was the year that challenged me the absolute hardest, and was probably the year that I was at the worst and smallest I'd ever felt. But I genuinely believe that 2026 is going to be the strongest version of myself, and damn it, I'm going to be fucking happy again. Thanks guys, bit of a rant, bit of a ramble. I'm going to see if I can trim this down a bit to make it more palatable. I'm going to try and do a bit more coherent stuff down the line. I'm streaming a lot more on Twitch, TikTok, whatevs. Love y'all. Why can't a nose be 12 inches long? Because then it'd be a foot.